Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, March 15th. We're on the American account. We don't really have to do anything because I did it in the previous recording, but we are on a winning streak and we're at rank 17. And so my fear now is I've broken the winning streak, and so I'm going to go in and lose, potentially, I've maybe broken the winning streak in the sense that I've taken a break and I'm going to come back and maybe win. If we could get one more victory, I'm pretty much at rank 16 then, and then one more victory on that. Like, every more victory I get is another rank until the winning streak is broken. And I'm not sure I've ever made it to rank 16, frankly, at all. I don't think any cards have been nerfed in this patch that came out. I don't think anything else has happened, so there's really not a good reason for this.
It is on.
I would have just kept on playing, but I had to go to the bathroom, unfortunately. Like, I desperately... If you're gonna be a streamer, if you're gonna be a YouTuber, you desperately need somebody else. Like, a partner. If you're gonna live stream for a long time, you need somebody that will hop in every now and then, or just the ability to, well, I mean, if you're young, you probably don't have to go to the bathroom as much as older people do, but that will eventually change with age. Meanwhile, there was a story I read. Steam updated on its blog. They're going to now flag sections of comments that are review bombed. And the way they said it, it was off-topic review bomb is what they're defining it as. But in all honesty, this description of off-topic review bombing includes basically everything. So I don't think there's a way to go about that. Oh, I could have used this and done one damage to the head face. So there were two frequently asked questions at the end of their comment. It said, what about review bombs about EULA changes in DRM? And they go, well, we do consider those off topic. So if they're considering those off topic, then yeah, that's basically all review bombs. Then the most recent review bomb that I know of was the review bombing of Devotion, because an artist slipped in Devotion, the Taiwanese game, slipped in an insulting phrase into one of the art pieces against China's president, and then either actual Chinese citizens or Chinese bots began review bombing it like crazy. So almost certainly you could say that would also be considered off topic. The problem here is it's just everything. Like, the only thing that would be a review bomb that I think they might consider on topic is if oh, I screwed that up. I am doing poorly. Very, very poorly. If somebody changed their game, inside their game, and they started getting review bombed because they changed the game, that's about the only thing that would be on topic. What they are making as an argument is that, what Steam is making is that Steam reviews, at least starting now, are for the general dopey person who is looking for a game on Steam and wants to know whether they're going to have a fun time with that game or not. It doesn't include people who have any kind of moral objection to the
We have many secrets.
to the creators. So Firewatch, for instance, threatening to take down and possibly actually having taken down well, no, I think they just threatened, but they threatened to DMCA PewDiePie. That Firewatch got review bombed. That would be an off-topic review bomb now. And what Steam is just going to do is it's going to flag by default those sections in its timeline graph and just ignore those. Both all positive and all negative reviews. If they label a section as this is off-topic review bombing, it's just not going to be in the reviews at all. And so this system is highly subjective and highly set up to be manipulated. It's pretty obvious. So I don't know, like the thing here is it's censorship and it's not censorship in the same sense. It depends on what you look at it. If you're saying what Steam and Valve represent as the review score at the top as being a Valve approved and endorsed opinion. If you make the argument that what the game review at the top is Valve's free speech saying we think this game is mostly positive based on this number of user reviews, and we ignored these other reviews, which they had been doing already. Like, they had already been ignoring people who got the game from Steam, from outside of Steam, via keys. So now it's just that Steam review at the top is that, then you might argue this is Valve's free speech and Valve is just being a little deceptive by pretending like the score review at the top is the combination of all score reviews. On the other hand, they've balanced it out better than most, quite frankly. The score at the top is kind of like the score on boxes where people just collect the reviews. That was the end of the win streak, so I'm just going to switch over to the European account at this point. The Battle.net launcher has changed, by the way. I'm not sure I like it. It seems like it's just taking up more space now for very little reason. Just to make sure I see all the ads possible.
You're here! The crowd is getting rowdy!
Yeah. So, yeah, the scores on the storefront probably always have been just advertising more than a valid place to review things. Comparing Valve is best compared to Amazon, and I'm sure Amazon does a lot of eliminating of fake reviews or review bombs on products too. It's just not so public. And Valve here still is letting you review bomb all you want. They're just saying if people review bomb, then that section is going to be ignored. And inherently, they admit that they just don't care enough or have enough resources to look at every single review. So you can easily manipulate the review bomb, the anti-review bomb measures they're doing right now by simply spreading out your reviews. So if if you are upset about DRM it being added to a game or EULA change, instead of reviewing it all in one section, which you probably still should do because it's still going to put on the timeline at least a glowing, flashing, a white section that is going to be apparent to anybody who bothers to look. But then also 2 weeks later, you should put, maybe 5 other people should put bad negative reviews saying this is bad, we don't like this. And then 2 more weeks later, 5 other people should put bad reviews. If a game is consistently has de novo in it and that is your complaint about it, then consistently it will get those negative reviews, and you may just have to bring it down in smaller measures over a longer period of time. And even if you do post your negative review right in the section that later gets identified as a review bomb set time frame, you're still being given your free speech. You're just not being counted in their review score at the top. And in the end, it's probably better. I guess I'll play as Rogue since I just need to play weapons. It's probably better for Valve to just get rid of the review score at the top in the way it's presented. Let's just make sure I did a Tavern Bro on one, yeah. Because that would fix everything here real easily. Is that like if at the top it didn't say anything, or if it randomized what it was showing, maybe that would be it. But certainly they've spent way too much time and energy creating this culmination of reviews that probably is very helpful. Like, I use it all the time. If you hate the idea of Valve censoring out review bombs in the culmination of if it's in its culmination review, that option will be in your settings. This is honestly the smallest olive branch possible that Valve could give to developers. Like, meanwhile, you're still going to have a bunch of SJWs still hating Valve for not adopting the most extreme level of censorship possible. You're still going to have developers who are also unhappy about that and are going to claim to or switch over to Epic. Epic is still going to be, it's like reviews only if you want it. Storefront, Good Old Games is still going to be its curated experience. I'm not sure what the level of reviews are at Good Old Games, actually. So, like, they're giving them a small olive branch. I guess the best thing to do would be to go to the Valve update, the Steam update forum, and complain about this. If you're really upset, complain it directly to Valve on that forum, and potentially review bomb the change to review bombs, and make your voices heard to Valve that you don't like it if you don't like it.
The light protects me.
Maybe I'm old and tired and just don't want to fight this fight, but it doesn't seem too extreme. Valve certainly, as I get closer and closer, seems to be up and down with censorship and developers. They seem to be definitely walking a tight line between, like, just extremely obviously pro-censorship groups and
Hey, lights out.
and people who actually believe in free speech, which I don't know if there's really needs to be a group there, because that should just be the default for everybody. Valve is also walking a tight line that has to always be remembered, that if Valve goes too far here, the game like Devotion that was review bombed, like if they go too far and show they're willing to do this, they might immediately start getting demands from the Chinese government to remove Devotion. So like they probably, even in this movement, are going to get pushback from the Chinese government to say, no, you shouldn't remove all those review bombs that we put there with our bots, or had our citizens put there. So yeah, there's big consequences that you probably wouldn't see coming by taking almost any action. Let's see. Will I die? Not if I do that.
I fight. Here we go.
Job done.
Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Warner Brothers and Turtle Rock Studios announce a co-op zombie first-person shooter called Back 4 Blood for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Let's see if there's a trailer here. No trailer. And there is no, I think, release date. Now, what's important about this is Turtle Rock Studios, and I don't have the full story in my head, was the maker of Left 4 Dead 1, I believe, as a mod to, I think, Counter-Strike Go. I could be wrong about that. And then, like, Valve kind of bought it, and then quickly, for some legal reasons, had to make Left 4 Dead 2 really quickly. And see, so I really need to do a lot more research on this story. But this game, Back 4 Blood, is basically Left 4 Dead 3, with Valve being excluded and not having any of the IP. It's left the number 4, it's dead, and back the number 4 blood. So yeah, this is a interesting move. It's something that probably is a better move for the game industry, because working inside of Half-Life of Valve guarantees that you probably won't ever make a game ever again. So if you were part of making one of Valve's older good games, leaving Valve's sphere of influence and making a new IP in the same vein is what we'd like to see. We definitely like to see that for Dead Space. We'd definitely like to see that for possibly the people that actually made Mass Effect 1. The problem a lot of times is the name of the company still exists and is still a subsidiary of the developers, but the actual talent that made the games have long since left. Same is true for like Metal Gear Solid and Konami. Is like Metal Gear Solid Survive, definitely not considered a real Metal Gear Solid game. Yeah, but right now Turtle Rock Studios still has to succeed in other ways. It still has to be under the publisher of WB Games, and it has to develop a game and make it actually good. there is an argument certainly that could be made where this gives me a good reason to go back and play Left 4 Dead 1 or 2 and see what that experience is like nowadays, when particularly when you're not playing with friends and you'd have to play with random people. I don't think you can play Left 4 Dead at all
Here we go.
by yourself or parts. But the Left 4 Dead series really only has 4 short scenarios in it, and it was designed for replayability. I'm not sure that works, because what that looks like today is something closer to Overwatch, and so you would have to have the equivalent of Overwatch matches that go longer and are more just centered around zombies, and I don't know what more they can do with zombies, because they're going to have a wide variety of zombie creatures that do different things for that concept to work. And in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 there was like 4, maybe 6 different varieties of zombies. And they were used effectively, but I don't know if you get away with just making 6 new varieties of zombies, or if you need 12 now, or what those 12 would be. So the concept here is amazing. People love the sound of it in general, but the reality here is still a big question mark. It is also important to point out that Turtle Rock Studio was last being funded and purchased and published by 2K for the game Evolved, which was an asynchronous 4 versus 1 game. So it's not even the first spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. Evolve
I wonder.
Evolve really didn't succeed. None of the asynchronous games did. So basic answers here. It's not going to be a battle royale game. There will be player versus player. There will be a campaign. They're not going. Turtle Rock Studios is not going to make Evolve 2. And that's about it. There's no real information to be ascertained. Okay. Hit this, and kill this guy. Let's see, moving on, we have a game on Steam called Coma, K-O-M-A, which looks like a horror game. The problem with all of these is they all look good enough, but you just never really know. This one requires VR, so I can eliminate it from consideration because of that. It's $9.09, has a third-party EULA. Remember, a lot of these also are plugins on my browser, so this may not be stuff that's present without installing basically every Steam plugin you can install. This is English only. So, yeah, Coma's not making it to the wish list. I'm gonna take a second here just to make sure we're still streaming. Yeah.
So many options.
Yeah, we're still streaming. Just wanted to be certain about that. This.
Here we go.
Let's see, Turtle Rock Studios also had the same article, so we don't need to talk about that. Gamatsu has an article, Kingdom Hearts 3 updated to change Olaf's Japanese voice following the actor Perry Takai's arrest for having failed a drug test, testing positive for cocaine. Apparently, doing drugs in Japan is a very, very big deal. And so they are, his likeness and his voice are in the new game, Judge Eyes, or Judgment in the West is what it's called. And they've recalled all the games and delayed the sale, and they're probably going to, like, potentially fully remove the character. Sega is. And Square Enix is changing it in Japan. So they just like want no association whatsoever with that. It seems to be particularly in the acting industry strict too, but in the entertainment industry. I'm not sure I can fully explain why that is, but I would suspect that there is a high standard that all entertainers are expected to maintain to be good to be good role models, and that's probably it. That being said, when I think about all the anime I have ever seen, like, there's been, like, all the anime I've ever seen, I can't think of a single instance where drugs were even shown very often. Like, maybe one I can think of, there was maybe in a couple stories there's been people who are who have done drugs and are druggies, but no showing of actual drugs, which is weird because in Japan, like, smoking, last I heard, was perfectly acceptable, and drinking alcohol is a national pastime in the form of sake. And so maybe it's in the extremely liberal allowance of those two addictive materials that they drew the line. And I know at some point mushrooms were legal in Japan. So,
The light protects me.
like, but I've not heard anything about any marijuana usage in Japan. I've not heard really anything about cocaine or any other hard drugs. So yeah, I guess what it boils down to is that they found their line.
I fight.
In a similar way that in the United States it's frowned upon marginally, largely, to do hard drugs, but it's perfectly acceptable to do medications, even if the medications are also opioids, and that's caused the opioid crisis. And marijuana at this point in the United States is perfectly acceptable to do. Ah, I screwed this up. I shouldn't have done that.
I fight.
Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Clannad for Switch launches July 4th in Japan. Physical release has been added. Clannad being like probably the best and best known visual novel, getting re-released on Switch. It first came out in 2004 and has been ported various times. Yeah. I really would be a fool not to play Clannad if I was going to play a visual novel. Like, that clearly should be one of the first ones I play, or at least something somewhere around the top 10. Although there might be a slight argument to say don't play what very possibly could be the best game first, because that'll give you a false impression of the level of quality of visual novels.
Put this apple on your head.
Speaking of visual novels, I believe YouTube removed a visual novel gameplay of Jesse Cox's that had suggestive dialogue and sexual dialogue in it, but no images whatsoever. I'm not sure if that's going to get appealed and straightened up, or if this is just the beginning of some new insane policy of YouTube to say even words are unacceptable. It might also build around the idea of the visual novel may have had young looking anime characters, and with all of the problems YouTube has, maybe they're gonna start trying to censor young looking anime characters, which that is a consistent issue, is that young looking anime characters, or young looking hentai characters in particular, being called child porn when it's like, no, they're cartoons. That's not the thing you should be concerned about. You should be concerned about real children being actually exploited, not artists drawing things from their imagination.
Here we go.
It looks like I'm gonna lose. Also, seems like there is no weapon in here, so I'm wasting my time. Oops. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Fade to Silence launches April 30th for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Fade to Silence is the one that is going to be... No, I guess that's a different game. I thought it was the one that is being removed from Steam and going to the Epic Store, but that must be something else. I have no idea what Fade to Silence is, though. Like, another game I haven't heard of. It's $40. Oh, yes, and this is from the publisher THQ Nordic, so THQ Nordic put that out. They probably rushed it out, almost certainly, so that people don't remember the last thing THQ Nordic did. Let's try Rush Warrior and see if there's a weapon in there. I don't see a deck just called weapons, so I may have to build a deck with weapons in it. But yeah. So yeah, drama.
Garrosh versus Rexar.
Let's move on. We have a game on Steam here called Bullynoid, which looks like it's an Arkanoid game where you're bouncing a bully around to beat up people. It's like extremely violent for an Arkanoid clone for no reason, and just all the art style and detail here gets in the way of actually trying to play an Arkanoid game. This is 89 cents discounted. It's clearly a low effort game, very low effort game. Arguably Also a troll game, but we'll leave it at low effort. Let's see, Gamatsu has To All of Mankind debut trailer. I'll watch this and see if it gives me any more details of To All of Mankind. I've already talked about that earlier in the stream. It's a anime relationship survival game. A group of anime girls are in a post-apocalyptic Akihabara trying to survive and work together. Seems like there's a lot of talk and maybe some trading and some resource gathering. It's not, I think, just a straight visual novel, though. It's got something slightly more than that. In all honesty, particularly in Japan, there's no reason why you would want to be living in Tokyo or a highly urban area. You should head for the coast as quickly as possible and see how adept you are at fishing. You're probably going to be a lot better at fishing than you are hunting if you've never done either one. And again, particularly in Japan, it would be rather easy to build a lifestyle there. While living in an urban place, you're going to have the dangers of a lot of creatures in the shadows, assuming there are any animals in this post-apocalyptic world. And if there aren't any animals, then you can't eat anything and you're going to starve to death. But you also have the danger of like buildings falling apart, falling on you, and fires starting out, and just asbestos in the walls, things like that. So I would head to the outskirts, head to the wilderness, head to the shores. So yeah, most of the modern conveniences will spoil and go bad in less than 6 months to a year. So getting canned food and such inside the cities only goes so far. Yeah, the trailer really didn't show anything. It's just showing off the girls and their relationship. So clearly this is a game that is coming out for the Switch and the PS4. Clearly it's a game of just 5 anime girls and how they get along. In fact, it might even be that it's an allegory that they're actually in an apocalypse, or just a convenient way of doing things to eliminate the need to animate any of the other characters. That reminded me, not really, it's not really connected, but I finished the Talos Principle DLC, The Road to Gehenna. It was alright. The ending was pretty bad, and the writing is pretty bad. I would say The Road to Gehenna puzzles, there are fewer than the main game by a pretty big number, and the puzzles seem to be a lot more difficult. In particular, since it's been 5 years since I played the main game of the Talos Principle, I'd forgotten a lot of stuff, and so there were entire concepts that were just avoiding me. So the last couple of puzzles I did have to look up the answers, and several puzzles previously I cheated. The Talos Principle in particular is a well designed to accommodate cheating quite a bit. You're not just typing in a cheat code. Instead, what you're doing is you're taking an element from one discrete puzzled walled-in area. You're figuring out how to find the one place where you can escape that walled-in area with that item that you shouldn't be able to escape with, and use it on another item. So there was one puzzle where there's a force field, and you can stop force fields from being activated by using a a item called a jammer. So I just escaped a jammer from another puzzle, went up on a high hill, pointed the jammer into the force field in the other puzzle without it even going inside the puzzle, and this deactivated this force field that would have what it was designed to require a lot more work to solve that puzzle, and I totally just broke it and cheated it, and I did that several times. The big problem I would say with the Road to Gehenna DLC is half of the game and all of the dialogue is built around this Reddit forum allegory. So there's just a lot of text on this forum that I didn't want to read and didn't care about. But you had to kind of read it if you were going to get any story. If you didn't, you're just doing the puzzles then. And if you're just doing the puzzles, there's not enough puzzles or enough variety or interest there. In fact, I looked back at one of the main game's videos for just a second and immediately saw that there was an element and an item that wasn't used in the DLC at all, which would have been cool if it was used, and it would have been nice if there was new items or new puzzle elements added, and nothing is new. It's just slightly more difficult versions of what already exists. So if we do this and this and this, do that.
Job done.
So yeah, it's a fine game. It's an average game. The DLC, I'd say. I probably would have liked it a lot better had I played it right after I played the main game. My recommendation would be play all of the Talos Principle. If you still love the Talos Principle, then play the DLC. Or more likely, you already own the DLC, so you should just play the DLC after you play the main game. You kind of have to play it that way. You really can't go in an opposite direction and play the DLC before the main game, because then you wouldn't know what to do. I would have won if this guy wasn't there. Moving on, we have by far so far the most low effort game ever on Steam, called Nothing. It is literally nothing. The idea that this was not flagged is crazy. There is some text here, but clearly this is a troll game. This is a low effort game. This is something that is just not acceptable. In all honesty, if Valve just implemented a algorithm to say, look, we're going to run a match of every screenshot you upload and test to see how much black or darkness is in it compared to white or brightness is in it. And if we just find that your screenshot has more than 50% blackness in the screenshot, we're going to flag it and have somebody look at all your screenshots at that point and see if they're just too dark or if there's just literally nothing in there. You would get rid of most dark screenshot games that are mostly in darkness, and you would also just inadvertently be looking directly at most low effort games too, because a lot of horror games that really shouldn't be available for sale on Steam hide the fact that they're low effort games with blackness and darkness. And you could certainly make a rule at Valve to say screenshots must be of a certain brightness and viewability, or they'll be rejected. That would be easy, or they'll be further reviewed at the very least. Like, that would really be an easy way to fix a lot of problems, or at least help. Next we have a game on Steam called Tiger Fighter 1931 Torah. This looks like a shoot 'em up game. It doesn't look very polished, it looks pixely, 8-bit pixely. If this really is a brand new game, I wouldn't suggest buying it for $2.69. Yeah, and there's this big bundle here that makes me think it is a brand new game. Like, honestly, even if this was a really old game, this probably is not worth playing, even if it was very recognizable and you had nostalgia for it. There's just not enough happening there visually. Next we have a game on Steam called Our Children Escaping Earth. Alright, this looks like a strategy game, top-down, real-time strategy. I'm trying to watch this and give this a chance, but there are some problems, it looks like to me. It's just in the turn there. Like, there's a bunch of lines and circles and items that look like they're moving around, and it feels almost like a Factorio game. And a lot of neon color happening here, and I just really hate that visual aesthetic. And also a lot of blackness too. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is like a tower defense game, is what it really is. Anyways, it's early access. It's $4.49. I've looked at everything, and best I can tell, this is a tower defense game being hidden and sold as something different. Let's see. Let's do this. Nice. This. And then return. Next we have a game on Steam which is a bunch of Asian characters called Full Voice Reborn. It says it's a visual novel. Just skip through the screenshots. This looks relatively good. There may be a little shadowing problems here and there, but that might be an art style. This looks fine. I suspect this is a Chinese visual novel. There's something about how dark it is that seems to not be in the line with a visual novel. This is interesting. Almost looks like this would be a gameplay mechanic, but I don't think it actually is. This might just be select who you're going to talk to next. That's usually not that direct. Yeah, it seems like it's probably going for the Gothic Lolita idea. English is not supported, so it's already out. $8.79, and it's full Japanese audio and then Chinese subtitles and interface. There we go. So, I don't know. I don't know if this is a Japanese or Chinese game. Not really getting any story description out of it, but of course, how could I? It's not in English. Might be good, might be bad. Alright, I'm not getting enough of a description. Either way, it's not English, so we'll just move on. And I think we're gonna run into a bit of a collection of things like this. Next, we have a game on Steam that is again just a bunch of Asian characters. RPG casual simulation, it says. English not supported. $2.79. Chinese. Let's look at the screenshots. Like, this is off in its color palette and its angles. That's not too bad. This looks completely different though than that does. It's an art style. Yeah. No telling what this is though. Some Chinese RPG. It says it's an RPG. It looks like it's a visual novel to me.
I don't need any of you.
Yeah. And the problem with all these trailers in games like this is that literally the entire trailer was just text on screen, so I can't tell if it's Asian text, Chinese text giving me a description of what's happening in the story, or Chinese text just listing the creators and the credits. Charge or size? What is this one? Charge. This. This. Next, we have a game on Steam called 4-Color Fantasy, which is tagged sexual content, and one of the screenshots is showing, I would say, about 90% of the behind of an anime character, so it's also tagged nudity. What this is as far as an actual game, I have no idea. It's like there's 4 different color circles, which I guess you're manipulating in some way to have the 4 panels that the 4 different color circles are in balance out, and by balancing out the panels disappear, and as is standard, the panels disappear to reveal an anime character in some level of undress. 4-Color Fantasy is $2.99. Again, not worth it. Not really. Like, there's free porn on the internet out there. You don't need to pay money for what is ridiculous, dumb concepts, low effort games. Like, next we have a game on Steam here called Finnemore Fillmore 3 Skulls of the Tolix, and this is a game I've never heard of, but it looks like it's a point and click adventure game, and yeah, it says it was released in 1996. I am a sucker for point and click adventure games. It says also you can switch between the old graphics and the new graphics, and there is some level of animation here that I'm seeing in the cutscene that you normally wouldn't see, and it is using the old Scum VM type verb bar, but this isn't a LucasArts game. but a lot of people copied that idea. $5.99 for this, or you could buy both 1 and 2 in the series for $5.93. So I think it'd be better just buying both of the games. Let's see.
I must choose. What now?
Can't save the game, apparently. I'm gonna put this on the fall list, just because I'm a sucker for VR games.
Don't crack me up.
So yeah, put that on the fall list and we'll see if people are interested. Speaking of seeing if people are interested, Gematsu has an article, Jump Force DLC character Seto Kaiba and DLC roadmap announced. So unfortunately it's Jump Force, so nobody liked Jump Force and it sounded like it was a pretty garbage game. This model, I suppose, now exists of Seto Kaiba. Maybe it already did. So maybe there's a Yu-Gi-Oh game in with 3D models at some point that would work or happen. Like, that wouldn't be terrible. The problem is I think it's Bandai that makes the I'm pretty sure it's Bandai that makes the Yu-Gi-Oh games, and they're always designed for mobile and they always look pretty bad. So if there is going to be a new Yu-Gi-Oh game, it's probably going to be a mobile game first with mobile graphics, or a Switch game first with Switch graphics. I don't think it even really adds too much to have cool looking 3D graphics of the in Yu-Gi-Oh, come to think of it, because then you're just paying animators instead of probably paying programmers or card designers. So yeah, and having a 3D model of Seto Kaiba is only one of dozens of characters in just the original series of Yu-Gi-Oh, let alone all the other series. It would be better to simply take the animated cartoon, the animes, find the best still frame cells you can find of the characters that have already been animated and just put them in the game. And that's probably what they do. Just keep on making cards, keep on trying to evolve that series of games. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Successor of the Moon, right now on the Hearthstone. By the way, I'm just trying to win. This is apparently a Metroidvania adventure game. Looks like it's a bit of a beat 'em up game also. Looks a lot like Momodoro. Let's see. It's from a publisher, Sakura Game, which might be a good publisher, might not. It seems you're very much a floaty character doing your platforming and attacking. This might be a smaller Metroidvania experience, which might be cool. It's $1.79 and it's English and Chinese. I'm willing to give this one a try, you know. It might be good, it might be bad. It's probably bad when you see they can't even make a screenshot in full screen.
That's incredible.
And the price is really low. But I'm willing to give it a chance. Next we have a game on Steam called Sephiroth Stories. The only Sephiroth I've ever heard of was the Final Fantasy character, so I don't know if that name comes from something else. This looks like a mobile JRPG, although it's top-down graphics. when you're moving around the overworld, apparently.
So many possibilities.
Let's see. $13.49 tells me it's a bigger game, or at least it thinks it's a bigger game, so I'll put this on the fall list. But yeah, there's a decent chance that I would not choose to play this. It does not look like it's likely to be in the top 10 JRPGs out there. It's from really an unknown developer and an unknown publisher, so that might be a problem. Or it might be a great thing, because it might take the flavor of a JRPG and bring it down to a much more reasonable amount of time.
Unleash me.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Destruction, which looks like it's a top-down twin-stick shooter and RPG, because you've got teams shooting at the same time.
Winter is here.
So it's like a team-based top-down twin-stick shooter? Or... I kind of like the little cutout in the animation style. It's different from the norm, at the very least, and different is often the best. It feels kind of like it's a mobile game, though. Single player only. $19.99. This one's a big question mark also. It needs a little watch. It's in English and Chinese, so it might just be a Chinese mobile game now on Steam. I'll put this on the follow list though. Like, there might be something to it. Okay. If I do this, and then do this, do this, and then end the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Mad Princess the Great Gladiators. You don't have a lot of games where you're playing as gladiators or in gladiatorial times. This looks like it's probably a JRPG though, or some kind of Asian RPG. A lot of text going on here, a lot of black background screens. It might just be a case of where you are managing your gladiators and they're going from fight to fight with no overworld. This is $12.99 discounted, and it says it's English only, which is strange for it to be English only when clearly some of the screenshots have Asian characters in it, in the descriptions and the words. Didn't I see that? Or am I thinking about the previous game? Maybe I'm thinking about the previous game. Interesting, they're all starting to bleed together. Never heard of this developer or this publisher. And this probably is just a dungeon crawler at the core of it. But I may have run out of emotional energy to make decisions at this point, and I'm just going to put it on the follow list. So, if that is the case, I need to develop some systems to work around that. So, let's not look at any more games for a while and just cover the news. So, GameIndustry.biz has an article. We'll still be looking at games, of course. Turtle Beach acquires the PC peripherals company Rocat, R-O-C-C-A-T. Deal is of over $17 million to help accelerate headset makers' European, Asian, market reach. Okay. All of those things that are available for sale are not really things I suggest anybody get. If you want a headphone, I would suggest the Audio-Technica M20s or M50s as a good, cheap, relatively speaking, cheap headset monitors. If you want to get a keyboard, I'd suggest, well, I use the Logitech 550s, I believe, or M500s. Keyboard and mouse, just the mouse is an M510, so I think the 550 is the keyboard and the mouse combined. It's just a standard wireless mouse. It's fine, but nothing special. Also, I guess, since we were just trying to win here and we aren't winning, we might as well move over to the European account. Like, if I'm gonna have any chance of winning, I should just go back to the Americas account and try it there. Yeah, if you're thinking about getting a gaming chair, don't. Find a good, well-reviewed office chair. It'll probably be as expensive or even slightly more expensive than a gaming chair, but it's what you really should get, is an office chair. Unless you can get just a better chair, like a couch type thing. Like that'll be the best solution, is a good padded recliner. Something really designed for sitting. Do I want to get 2 victories of any kinds? Not really. 2 games with Druid class cards. Well, at least those line up. Yeah, I'm not sure what else you'd even think about getting. But these third-party peripheral makers, with maybe the exception of fight stick makers, all are kind of unnecessary add-on things. Like,
You asked for it.
there's no need for it. Maybe if you were gonna get a steering wheel or a HOTAS to fly planes, heads-up displays, or something like that. The fact that there's so many third-party peripheral manufacturers that really never make anything interesting probably should have also been a death nail for VR. Because VR, certainly in its early days, magically convinced people that it wasn't just a unnecessary add-on, even though it pretty much is. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Discord evolves verified servers with new community tools. Discord is evolving how verified servers work to help the game builders develop stronger communities while giving them more agency when it comes to monetization. How are anybody monetizing anything on Discord? I guess it's because Discord has its own game store and it's selling games on this store. The article continues, starting today, devs can pay a small fee and receive access to store channels and news channels. Once approved, they'll also receive a verified checkmark, vanity perks, and appear in server discovery. So Discord is going the Twitter account, except for they at least are smarter than Twitter are, because they're making people A, pay a fee to be verified, and B, actually be approved to be verified. And this is game developers making their own Discord channels, which I don't really buy this idea. Like, I don't really see why you would want to, over the course of a long amount of time, want to go to the Discord server of game developers and just constantly either be hyping up or getting hyped for the release of some new game that may be very far off, or or possibly, yeah. See, how am I trying to say this? I would think Discord is closest to Skype, and the idea of thinking like I was Skyping with game developers and feeling like I was becoming friends with game developers feels like it's very deceptive, because that's totally not what is actually happening. You're just being advertised to. Let's see. The article continues. Discord claims the changes will help game makers better integrate commerce and community, and with that in mind, has also decided to give devs access to a more robust selection of analytic tools as pictured below. I'll see if there's actually a picture. Quote, we've learned that devs want to avoid the friction and cost of a traditional storefront by selling directly to the community. In other words, developers don't want to refund things or deal with customer complaints, so they now can create a sort channel within your server where anyone can get your game. Explains the company. I wonder if this is supposed to say a short channel or sorted channel. What does the typo really mean? Moreover, we've learned devs want better insights for their games. These insights allow devs to optimize their game development, marketing, campaigns, and community activations, which ultimately make better game experience for the players. I feel like a lot of these Discord channels would very much be echo chambers. At least Reddit, for as much of an echo chamber as it is somewhat known. You're gonna lose so many voices by being on Discord. Let's see. It continues. So some analytics are already live and some are coming soon for devs making use of the commerce tools. Use these insights to understand how much salt you need to add to your game's poncho. I suppose this is supposed to be half the word gazpacho and half the word games. And then it's showing a picture of a couple of pie graphs, and that's kind of it. Let's see, how much more of this? Discord also wants to give devs the power to use existing permission features and store channels to, maybe that's what it was supposed to be, store channels, to manage their game through their entire life cycle from closed alpha to beta through early access and launch day. Let's see.
What to do?
This is another quote here. Another big brain thing we've learned is that devs are using Discord to run early tests of their games. A small audience continues to blog. These alpha and beta groups then turn into the foundation of healthy communities that are hyped about the game and geared up to purchase on launch day. Which I'm not sure they do purchase on launch day. That's a bit of a question, I suppose.
Speak your peace.
Oops. There we go. What do we want to do here? We need to kill this guy. Like that. And then... kill this guy, I guess. Play this. And play this.
Time waits for no one.
And we'll just play that one. Here we go. The article continues. Finally, Discord engineers have built and released a swath of tools designed to make development itself even easier. By accessing Discord Game SDK, devs will gain access to time-saving solutions covering everything from cloud saves and voice chat to networking and lobbies. Yeah, I could totally see doing networking and lobbies and cloud saves and voice chat through Discord, because that's the thing you assume that they're good at. But a lot of this feels like Discord is trying to do things they have no clue what they're doing about. Okay. 4. Is there any way we can kill that first? And then kill that. And hit that. And hit that one. And then in return. Yeah, Discord in particular has been very ambitious, and I don't think it really has the popularity that people think it does. As somebody who made a Discord server and then never used it again, like when I set that up and looked at it, I'm like, I just don't have enough people that are fans of my YouTube channel would want to comment on that specific Discord channel. That's 2 games with the Druid done. Still have plenty of 13 Druid cards that need to be played. Moving on, Gamatsu has a article. Dragonstar Varnier is delayed to summer. This is another game I have forgotten about or never heard. It looks like it's probably a lewd JRPG. It was previously coming out in North America, Europe in the spring. It's coming from Idea Factory. We kind of know who Idea Factory is. There's an opening movie trailer here I'll look at. Just skip through this. 2 minutes and 12 seconds. You know what I should do is I should have all of these trailers just play back at double speed. Like, I should really have all YouTube videos on my desktop always playing back at double speed. That saves me half the time before I do anything else. So this game looks like you're a gothic Lolita vampire anime character, or at least there is one of those in your party. And then there's a bunch of anime moe girls also. It's very dark and black, so I'm assuming you're going to be fighting a bunch of monsters. It could be actually that they are dragons, like anime girl equivalents of dragons, reincarnated or something.
For the wild.
Since it's called Dragonstar Varnier. Yeah, it seems like they are dragons. Okay. Moving on. Game of Sutra has an article, Minecraft is joining Microsoft Xbox's Game Pass lineup. It's a little surprising that Minecraft is joining it, but it's been long enough, certainly, that makes sense. There's really no reason why that shouldn't be the case. They've probably gotten as many sales. Microsoft now has gotten as many sales as possible. I saw a video on YouTube, but I didn't watch it yet, so I don't know what this is about, where people are upset with Notch for something. I don't see a real reason to say anything about Notch at this point, though, considering how he's not really making any more games and is just retired early in life. If he has a game that comes out, then it would be worth reporting on, but if he does anything else that's not video game related, I don't see any reason to talk about him. The idea that Minecraft is joining the Xbox Games Pass lineup is expanded with the idea that Microsoft is expanding where Xbox Games Pass is usable. So it might very well be the case that very quickly having the Xbox Games Pass might let you play Minecraft on the Switch for free or PC for free. But that would still probably not be the Java edition. So, like, I guess if I could get the other Minecraft version for free, I would do it, but that's about all I can really say, is that I would grab it and get it for free and probably never play it. Like, unless there was somebody that I knew personally that wanted to play it on their cell phones, like some nieces or nephews or something like that, some cousin that desperately wanted to play me in Minecraft, which I doubt that would ever be the case. And if it was a YouTube fan that wanted to play me in Minecraft, basically forget it. Yeah. My most recent Stone Block series, I think, is close to being done or is done now on Steam, and that modded Minecraft experience was pretty bad. Really, really bad. Like, I did not understand half of it, did not get anywhere where I wanted to, spent a lot of time on it.
We will devour this world.
Let's see.
For the wild.
Do I want to kill this guy?
I fight. We will devour this world.
Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Gamasutra has an article. Blind Squirrel lands $5 million in funding to self-publish its first game called Drifters. Drifters is a free-to-play 5 vs 5 hero action shooter slated to release on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC later in 2019. So this feels like this is a already finished product of a game, if I was to guess, and they are getting $5 million in advertisement abilities in a way of in publishing the game and making sure people actually see it. Basically, it's a multiplayer game though, so I really don't have any interest in it after that point. Gearbox put up another picture. So at this point, either Gearbox is straight up lying about how many games it's going to announce at PAX, or it's talking about like re-releases, because here we have this picture It says, time to tease another game from PAX. This is Borderlands 2. You can tell because the Siren has the Hyperion yellow outfit. It's not the Firehawk from the first game. This is also an area from Borderlands 2 as somebody who recently played Borderlands 2. So I know this area directly, and this is extremely blurry. So the only thing I could guess from that is possibly they are re-releasing Borderlands 2 on mobile, because that wouldn't even look good on the Switch otherwise, and that frankly wouldn't even look good on the mobile. Borderlands 2 I think isn't on the Switch, so maybe that's it. Or maybe this is a misdirect and it's the blurriness that they're teasing, not Borderlands 2 at all, so perhaps they're releasing some blurry game. That being said, 5 hours ago, Gearbox also tweeted out this ampersand sign, which I think this feels like it's from Law and Order, which that doesn't make a lot of sense unless they're bringing back the Law and Order Telltale games, which would not be the first games I would re-release if I had the ability to re-release Telltale games, like, because I think you'd still have to get all the licenses and the likenesses renewed for the Law and Order characters. Or if they were making a new Law and Order game, that would be insane too. So there, you know what it is though, come to think of it, I just thought of this. It's Penn and Teller. Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, is a direct friend and a magician, a colleague of Penn and Teller, the magicians. And we already knew that Penn and Teller was doing Desert Bus in VR. And Desert Bus was part of a Penn and Teller collection of games, or like an Easter egg for a Penn and Teller collection of games. So this clearly is just a new Penn and Teller game, which I probably had already heard about and already knew about many months ago, because I listened to Penn Jillette's podcast. I haven't listened to it much lately, and he probably just leaked that information since he can't stop himself from leaking anything. So yeah, there's probably a new Penn and Teller game. There's also on Gearbox right now the what is it? St. Patrick's Day skins? Yeah, St. Patrick's Day skins for Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel. You need to get those codes and have them redeemed before the 22nd of March shift, the internal shift codes. This robot tease, though, like, I still don't have a clue what this is. Like, I have no idea what that is. And then there's March 28th, Boston, Massachusetts. We assume that's Borderlands. But then you have at least 2 games here that are Borderlands, so yeah, there's definitely some weirdness afoot in that.
Your peace.
So yeah, PAX could be very interesting. Game of Sutra has an article, Steam Link Anywhere. Beta drops Steam Link's local Wi-Fi only restriction. So A new version of Valve's Steam Link gives players the ability to remotely access their Steam libraries without requiring the two machines to be on the same Wi-Fi network, which I assume probably means you could VPN, or it is, I guess, important to mention that this is a Steam Link software that can be used in its own discontinued hardware, the Android app or a Raspberry Pi app, which will be able to connect to a remote computer running Steam. I don't think that a Raspberry Pi in particular is going to give you a very good experience there, trying to stream all of that. Even if it's through the wired connection, you're going to have some CPU and graphics problems, unless you're playing some very basic games off Steam. Seems the program also popped up with on mobile with support for Bluetooth game controllers, mice, and keyboards, though it quickly became an Android-only launch due to a beefed-up iOS App Store guidelines. So, yeah, you can't play the Steam Link app on iOS unless there is a jailbroken version of it. I am ashamed to admit this, but I was building myself a Raspberry Pi for Christmas last year and hurt my hand in the construction of the box that was around that it was supposed to be in, and have since not had any free time to get back to it at all. So I have just kind of sitting on a shelf project that I need to get back to and finish. But that tends to be somewhat an issue always. Like some projects in particular, you start knowing, well, I'll start them knowing that they're not going to be a high priority and I'm not going to finish them anytime soon. Some projects are more strict and I actually do want to finish them in a reasonable amount of time. Being a YouTuber takes up a lot of time for the amount of content I want to create. Practically all my time, and having insomnia and sleeping too little, too late, or too much is always an issue also. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article, Get a Job, Big Blue Bubble is hiring a senior 3D artist. That is in London, Ontario, Canada. I've never heard of Big Blue Bubble, so I imagine they make like mobile games or something. These job listings for these companies never really say what the companies have made. Usually I assume that's because the companies haven't actually made anything of interest. But maybe it's a small bit of imposter syndrome even in the job writers in the HR department. Gamasutra has an article, Steam devs can now use the networking APIs to create Counter-Strike Go and Steam devs can now use the networking advanced programmable interfaces created for Counter-Strike Go and Dota. So, what does that really mean? It says, with these tools at their disposal, Valve says devs should be able to offer faster and more secure connections to those playing multiplayer games. So, using Valve's network, for example, anonymizes traffic and protects game servers and clients from DDoS attacks, and ultimately makes it more difficult for external forces to disrupt gameplay. Okay, so it's netcode, and in all honesty, the one thing most developers need is netcode. That's probably going to be super helpful. Valve also notes that the setup can improve ping time experienced by players and says that 43% of players saw an improvement in ping time under the system. So, yeah. So, it's basically a programming library, is what I would call it. Or an interface to a programming library to make netcode work better. And I assume the netcode for Counter-Strike Go and Dota are pretty good. That might be the one thing that Valve has done really well over the last few years is figure out a way to make net games run smoothly and efficiently. GameIndustry.biz has the same story. Discord Game Store refocuses on Nitro subscriptions. Devs can now sell their games directly. We already kind of covered that story, so I don't feel need to recover it. We shall see is really the only answer I have to the question about whether Discord really does turn into a place people will go to buy video games. I would say maybe even Discord has a better chance at that than the Epic Store, because nobody's really complaining about the Discord store yet. Even though the Discord store is doing paid exclusives also. It's just paid exclusives on a bunch of indie games nobody had ever heard of. Gamer Sutra has an article. Microsoft is bringing Xbox Live to iOS and Android. What does that mean? Microsoft has laid out plans to launch a new cross-platform mobile software development kit that will let game devs add Xbox Live functionality to their games in iOS and Androids. For Google in particular, they may be pretty happy about that idea. Because then that means they just the Google Play interface, Google Games Play interface that they have that does the cloud saving and all of that could be retired, and they wouldn't have to really work on that. And I'm fairly certain that Xbox Live works just as well as the Google Games interface does. So yeah, if everybody just was on Xbox Live, that'd be cool. It would also mean the small amount of achievements I have on Google Android games would then be added to the amount of achievements I would have on
Speak your piece.
I would have on whatever Xbox account I can actually access, since I lost access to my big one. Like, I've forgotten the password, and it seems impossible. I guess inherently that's the problem of the idea of doing Xbox Live, is that there is a way to get your account stolen, or
I concede.
or completely lost. And I've never bothered to go and try and recover it. It doesn't really matter to me enough. Also, I suppose that this cuts out Facebook, where a lot of people were logging into Facebook and into mobile games, and I would much prefer to log into Xbox than Facebook to save a game and have a profile. Let's trade one of these. The article goes on to say it's not an all or nothing deal. Either developers will be able to pick and choose what Xbox Live features they want to integrate, with the entire process being enabled through a single sign-in to a Microsoft account. So you could have things like chat, let's see, and knowing if your friends are online, Yeah, that could get bad real fast if you're playing Fortnite and or something like Fortnite on your mobile phone, and you're getting all these pings that your friends are online playing Fortnite too, and you should play some more. You may get stuck in a cycle of just constantly being pushed to play more video games. And at a certain point you have to take a break. Or you should take a break. Gamma Sutra has a blog called 4 Axes of RPG Design, or Axes, I suppose is how that word is pronounced. It's AXES, and then it says Axis number 1, AXIS. Guess I've never seen Axes written as a word. It says Axis 1 is randomness versus determinism, Axis 2 is mechanics versus content, Axis 3 is story versus freedom, and Axis 4 is options versus approachability. I see a lot of articles, particularly on Gamma Sutra like this, where it's always one thing versus another, versus another, versus another. I don't know if this is some kind of story writing strategy that's actually appreciated by other people. Like, honestly, it sounds pretty bad. It seems like you've just got like some arguments in your head that you want to try and turn into some kind of formulated concept and atone it as something that's really, really important when it really isn't. I don't know. Like, as much as I try to be a reporter, and as much as I push for good journalism, I also have quite a bit of lack of knowledge of what would be traditional writing strategies, because I certainly did not pay any attention in any English classes I was ever in. Like, I found them annoying and pointless, and they for the most part are annoying and pointless. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Lady Gaga is apparently going to appear in Cyberpunk 2077. Speaking of a celebrity who very possibly could test positive for doing cocaine, I don't know anything, and I'm not even making an allegation. I'm just saying that I would not be surprised. If Lady Gaga really does show up in CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077, it's an advertising stunt, obviously. So what I would do with a name like that is I would have her be cyber scanned, because this is hyper realistic 3D. So I'd have her do a 3D head scan, and then I would have her be a famous singer, like the most famous singer in the future, and maybe have her do a music number in the background or in a cutscene, and that would be about it. Depending on what her agent approved on top of that, I might have a character representing Lady Gaga
Reporting for duty.
like, I might have her killed off, because that would be slightly shocking. But that's about as far as I would go. I really wouldn't have her directly interact with the playable characters or play any big role. Unless Lady Gaga just really is actually a great voice actor, which singers might be very good voice actors. You never really know. It depends if they can get used to just the speciality of being a voice actor. But it would be dangerous to give her a major role in the game. certainly, and she cannot be the central focus of the game, other than maybe she's the first murder victim that then starts an investigation into, which is what I assume you're doing, is you're acting as some kind of investigator. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Asteri, A-S-T-E-R-I, acquires Prima Games. The strategy guide brand leaves behind physical releases and looks to help developers gather feedback on unfinished titles. So, Prima Games, was a subsidiary of DK Publishers, and it's going to discount the Prima imprint this spring and has ceased commissioning new strategy guides. So in a lot of ways, that's the death of strategy guides in a nutshell. Let's just see if we can play. Let's try a little Tempo Mage. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be seeing very many strategy guides anymore. To be fair, strategy guides probably should have died at least a decade ago. Like, the internet exists, walkthroughs and guides like that exist digitally. There's no great reason to have a printed version short of a few games. Like a really, really complicated game like Pokemon, for the age limit, for the age that Pokemon is targeted to, it makes sense that with the new two Pokemon games there would be a strategy guide available for that. Most other games, not so much. And that was always the case, really. Particularly once they stopped making games difficult on purpose just to stretch out the time in the early mid-80s, even early 90s. Just gonna end the turn here. Gematsu has an article here. Sniper Elite 3 Ultimate Edition is coming to Switch in 2019. It's a little weird that Sniper Elite would be coming to the Switch, but Switch seems to be very happy to take any game and republish it at this point. Sniper Elite 3 first launched for the PS4, Xbox One, PS3, Xbox 360, and PC in 2014, and the Ultimate Edition came out in March of 2015, according to the article. Let's see. Let's just draw cards, I guess. Still hate that card. Let's see. We have here an article from Handy Games. Spellforce Heroes and Magic, a real-turn strategy game, is coming to mobile devices. I suppose I may have thought this was Heroes of Might and Magic, and it doesn't actually look too off of Heroes of Might and Magic, so this might be a bit of a clone from that. I don't talk about mobile games very often, but apparently this one caught my eye enough for me to do that. Okay,
We have
this,
many secrets.
and then this, and then end the turn. Remember, right now I'm skipping all the games that came out on Steam, so we have a ton of games for Monday at this rate, which should be fine. Gematsu has an article. Kotodama, the 7 Mysteries of Fujisawa gameplay trailer. This was a visual novel, so probably not family friendly for me to show this trailer, so I'll just come over here and play it. It's just to make sure everything's at double speed. Is there a way to force double speed on embedded videos? It probably will fix itself eventually as I just open new tabs. Come to think of it. So yeah, this is more than just a visual novel game. It is straight up a Honey Pop clone, and it's actually not a bad move. And they have a guy in it too. So for all those Honey Pop fans that wanted some beefcake in your match 3 and they lose clothes game.
Time runs out on me.
Let's see how this.
$4 on.
Interesting. What is this game coming out for? It's coming out for the PS4, Switch, and PC on May 31st in Europe and June 4th in North America. Interesting. I'm gonna have to... I think that's already on my wish list, but yeah. Secret 5 randomly split. Come on. Here's a game I did want to mention on Steam. We have a game called I Support Breast Cancer Research. There's no reason whatsoever for you to believe this by purchasing this game. Any of the proceeds in whatsoever would actually go towards breast cancer research. This feels like this is a low effort scam in the form of a game, and scam I think is the right word for what it feels like. It doesn't seem like it's anything other than a maybe questionnaire of things. It claims it's a top-down shooter. I guess maybe it is. It's $8.99, 10% off. Do not buy this game. If you want to support breast cancer research, first of all, I would say heavily suggest you avoid the Susan G. Komen Foundation because they don't do anything. But then I would also heavily suggest you just find a good charity through Charity Navigator. Man, oops. That sucked. Through Charity Navigator, I believe is one of the websites, or any other website of your choice that reviews different charities and donate that way. If you want to donate to cancer and involve video games, you can pick a good breast cancer research facility that is probably on Humble Bundle and donate the proceeds of the games you purchase on Humble Bundle.
Science overwhelmed.
$4 on.
I found it first.
Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. Axiom Verge producer files suit against Badland Publishing for $200,000. Dan Edelman alleges publisher hasn't paid share of the European distribution earnings, flaked on promises of healthcare fund for developers' ill son. That sounds bad. This is a story I think that will probably grow by the Monday, and we'll have a little bit more so yeah, there's a whole story here, but I think it will grow on Monday. And now that there's a lawsuit filed, the courts are going to sort it out. But yeah, it's not unheard of for publishers to be slow to pay or to never pay or to flake. It's also not unheard of for developers to claim they're owed money when
You
they
asked
were
for it.
legally at least really aren't. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has a similar article. The high cost of a Wii U retail release. Limited run games and bad-led publishing give their side of the falling out over a Wii U physical version of Axiom Verge and why it's finally launching. Yeah. So there's a whole nother argument here where Badland Publishing is also not in the good graces, I suppose would be the phrase of their...
What to do? What to do?
Someday I'll be just like you.
Yeah, they're not in the good graces of limited run. And it's kind of hard to say limited run is probably the bad guy in that, since limited run has been doing business for at least a couple of years and they're doing their thing of making limited run publishing of other games, and there really hasn't been any big issues that I've heard of. Let's see, moving on, TechRaptor has an article, No Man's Sky Online coming as part of the No Man's Sky Beyond in the summer of 2019. I heard about some of the updates that have been done to No Man's Sky, trying to make it something that people really want to play, and I think in a weird way they kind of have succeeded in, at the very least, stemming the bleed of people who actually bought and played No Man's Sky, and they found a niche audience while disappointing most of their potential audience. And they're still working on No Man's Sky, which at this point, maybe it's just to deliver on promises that were made. Maybe it's to just save face. I would say that they should get close to saying, we're done with No Man's Sky, let's work on our next game, let's see if we can salvage our credibility in some way. Okay. I do this, and then do this, and then do this. TechRaptor has another article. Battlefield 5 Battle Royale mode Firestorm finally has a release date. What is this release date? It'll be a free update on March 25th across all platforms. I don't know how many people are really gonna be playing Battlefield at that point. Like, I really don't know why anybody would be playing Battlefield now.
Science overwhelming. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to see. GameIndustry.biz has a promotion of the Game Developer Conference, which is their parent company, owns both. GDC 2019 preview, 18 must-see sessions. Let's see. Esports Day, Diversity and Inclusion in Esports is the first one. How to represent mental illness in games. All of this is going to have big SJW-ness all over it. In case you're wondering.
We have many secrets.
There's a Unity keynote. Like Turing Tantrums AI Dev Rant. And then Tuesday there's a Google keynote. That's where I think Google might announce a new console. Next there's a session called Letting Go a Florence
Postmortem Florence, I believe, was a game. Then the Indie Soapbox, which is a bunch of indie devs, so that might be slightly interesting. Or there might be something interesting that comes out of these things, but frankly, it'll barely be a sentence or two of news reporting. Wednesday, there's Classic Game Design Postmortem Swinging It with Spider-Man. Then there's Epic Games The State of Unreal, and then Xbox Live growing and engaging your community again across platforms. So at this rate, I wonder if perhaps this is a this is going to be a case of most of these being alright sessions. Thursday, Project xCloud, the future of streaming Xbox games on mobile devices beyond. And then Epic Games Store and update and QA. And then Steam Business update. And then a session called Number One Reason to Be. And then a session called Unionizing the Game Industry, Next Steps and How Do We Get There, Day 1. Friday, a survival guide for game developers. And then Reinventing God of War. And Serious Games Roundtable. So it looks like they put all the two SJW things at the very beginning of the conference, which might be an interesting thing. 6 left. $5 left. So if I use my hero power several more times, I can play this, but 5 more turns. That feels like those are the biggest key. They say that's the biggest keynotes, but that feels like that's probably all of them. There was another article that I think we'll get to, where they specifically tell people to read the rules and follow the rules. For the conference, so there might be a concern there. So we'll get back to that. I doubt very much is going to happen from GDC, except for maybe that Google console. There's even rumors now that Google and Sega will be working together to make a console. Not a bad thought, really. You know, you get the Western company of Google, who has a lot of money, if not incompetent, for just being so large. And then you get Sega, who has the Japanese connections. So there's something to be said about that, too.
Unleash me.
Draw a secret from your deck.
An incredible discovery.
Play this. And then do this. And then do this.
Job's done.
Moving on, Game Sutra has an article. Shadow Warrior developer Flying Wild Hog has been acquired by Supernova. So the developer of Shadow Warrior and Hard Reset has been acquired by Supernova Capital, a private equity firm established by Splash Damage founder Paul Wedge. The undisclosed deal is a first for Supernova and Wedgwood, who founded the investment outfit in 2017 after selling his shares in Splash Damage to Leahu for $160 million. So there's a sentence here. Moving forward, the duo intend to focus on sustainable expansion by creating a happy and healthy studios that has oodles of creative freedom. So he's trying to make a happy and healthy workplace environment for video games. I'm not sure
such a thing can exist.
Job's done.
2 left. If I can survive 2 more turns, I don't see how I could, though. Well, that story sounded a lot worse at the start of it than it did at the end of it, because my fear is what it sounded like, is that you are going, the Shadow Warrior developer was just acquired by an equity firm because it was bankrupt and owed money to an equity firm, and it was being acquired to be liquidated. That seems to not be the case. Alright. Darn it.
Spirit of the flame, turn them to ash!
TechRaptor has an article here. I'm gonna lose, so I'll just leave that there. Lamplight City dev announces new game, Rosewater, set in the same world. I've never heard of Lamplight City, or this developer. It's some kind of point-and-click adventure game. Let's see. It doesn't... I'm not even sure Lamplight City is on Steam, so I'm gonna have to do some research here before I even play Rosewater. I think Shardlight is on Steam, so maybe Lamplight City is on Steam. It's just like a point-and-click adventure game from a couple years ago, so that would explain why, if I didn't remember it. Let's play one more game. So Gamma Sutra has an article, and I said we talk about this. PSA, know and abide your GDC 2019 Code of Conduct. Let's see. There's in bold it says, well, let's just read this whole paragraph. I skipped down about 2 paragraphs. To recap, it is my intention that GDC remains a friendly, safe, and welcoming environment for all, regardless of gender, sexual orientation, disability, ethnicity, and religion. Now, there's a mile of wiggle room in all of that. I guess gender also includes transgender people, but we have seen in the past somebody ask the meme question, are traps gay, and then be escorted off the premises because they're being they're not creating a safe, welcoming, friendly environment. Usually they're saying they're not creating a safe environment, and the question is, do you mean safe physically, or do you mean safe emotionally or mentally? Because really, you can only make people safe physically, and only by so much, even at that.
What to do?
So
Time runs out on me.
So you have to have a very light touch there. Let's see. The article, next paragraph is the expectation. It says everyone is welcome after that in bold. The expectation is that each attendee, exhibitor, member of the media, speaker, volunteer, and staff meter, and vendor, and their guests will behave respectfully, considerately, and professionally. Think of this event as an extension of your workplace. If it's not an opportunity to let loose or forget how to interact with each other in an appropriate manner. Okay, fair enough if that's how you want to run your convention.
Time runs out on me.
And let's just end the turn there. To go back to this list, there are things they missed here. First of all, if you are
if you claim to be genderless or somehow are genderless, then you didn't include that. If you claim to be asexual, that might be sexual orientation, it might not. Ethnicity, I think, covers everything. Disability covers everything. And religion forgets people without religion too, and more often than not that is very much forgotten. It is totally legal in the United States in lots of places and lots of scenarios to discriminate against people who claim to have no religion. It's only illegal to discriminate against people who claim to have a religion. So yeah, the non-religious, not a protected class, really. Moving on, it says to act in a way that is in violation of our code of conduct simply will be not tolerated. All instances of reported unacceptable behavior will be investigated and may result in the confiscation of one's badge. To be clear, a violator's badge will be revoked and they will be escorted off the property and they will not be refunded. End of story. Which, like, so with something like that, I would recommend, if you're going to a convention, to pay with a credit card and dispute the charges if something like this happens. Almost certainly it wouldn't happen to you, but this is definitely feels like this is straight up the same approach and attitude, and it might be the right approach and attitude. It might be the only thing you can say, because you really can't soft shoe it. You can't dance around it. If somebody does something horrible that needs to have them be escorted from the property, that's really what you have to do, and you have to say you will do. It really just comes down to the wiggle room there, and the accusation versus the truth, which is often very different things.
Science overwhelmed.
But yeah, we already kind of also knew GDC and Gamasutra are full of a bunch of game devs and a bunch of SJWs, so they almost certainly are going to unequally apply this. I wouldn't be surprised if you walked into the GDC convention wearing a MAGA hat. They would claim that that is somehow violating the code of conduct, and then they'd kick you out immediately. They'd call that an attack against ethnicity or something, which is not a fully realistic description. Moving on, Gematsu has an article here, slightly interesting. I suppose you'd call it classic anime, Doraemon is getting a game, Stories of Season. It's been rated for Taiwan. I'm not sure that there probably hasn't been other Doraemon games that they just haven't made it to the West. So they're saying because it has an English title, there's a possibility of an English localization. I wouldn't be surprised if this is an English title that is just for Asian release across different Asian countries. And they think Reset Era. Ugh, talk about SJWs. Unfortunately, it seems like a few leaks actually do come from it, or get reposted there at least. I'd like to see all journalists everywhere dig deeper to the original sources and not just credit the one place they happen to see it on more often than not. But that takes work, and that's something most reporters don't do. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Solar Ash Kingdom is the next game from the Hyper Light Drifter devs. Here we can see the thumbnail.
I guess I'll watch this trailer too and see what it's all about.
Starlight.
Yeah, double that speed up. I may own Hyperlife Drifter. And it definitely is on the wish list. It's just, man, you know, time moves so fast and there's so many games. So I'm seeing a character that's skiing, that's like skating its way towards a giant eyeball monster, and apparently it's an Epic Games Store exclusive. So I'll do that also. It'll be a timed exclusive on the Epic Games Store, so I guess there really doesn't matter that you announce it. Like, it's gonna get to the point where I'm gonna have to look at announcements and say, oh, if it's an Epic Games Store announcement, let's not even talk about it for a year. Probably gonna lose here. We've got an article on TechRaptor. Lightstep Chronicle presents a small, dark sci-fi text adventure. Lightstep Chronicles takes place in the same world as Lightstep. I've never heard of Lightstep. Lightstep Chronicles is PC via Steam. No link to it. And there's no like review number here, so this might be a game that's in early access. Yeah, the game will launch in spring of 2019, so we're early to that. At this point, we are about 47 minutes over an hour and 30 minutes. I should have broken this up. Let's just cover the last bit of news and wrap up this stream. I don't see a reason to do a third stream. We got all the daily quests done really early for a Friday. So we have this TechRaptor article, Dark Narrative Living Backdrops, super dark character screenshot there. I think this is just a game talking about Thief again and dark games. Somebody, like, people are so obsessed with some games like Thief, and they'll just write the same article over and over again, unless it's the editor having new authors write the same review for the same game over and over again. If that's the case, the editor needs to not do that, because that's insane. Alright, so this is a story that we haven't really talked about. GameIndustry.biz. 4 Indian cities ban PUBG mobile. Battle Royale games suspected of triggering violent behavior. Police have already arrested players. So, let's see. A ban is sweeping across the Indian state of Gujarat. Perhaps. 4 cities in that region, Ragkot, Sarut, Gir Somnath, and Bhavnagar, have implemented the ban, with the police making arrests to enforce it. This seems really ridiculous. The thing to take from this, of course, is India has always been really bad as a government. Their government kind of sucks. It's never been... I never really felt like it was this... It was totalitarian at that point, though. And it seems like they're taking a pretty totalitarian turn. And this really hurts
those 3 or 4 Indian video game companies that are developing games, and they're trying to build an industry of video games in India. When you are arresting, let's face it, probably little kids playing video games on their phone, like that's ridiculous. Or teenagers, that's hysterical. That's ridiculous. Meanwhile, in India, you have rapists getting away with light sentences or no sentences, and lots of other problems. And this is right in the middle of India and Pakistan having conflicts on their borders, so the last thing you need to focus on is video games. There's a lot of problems in India that could be fixed before that. Gamer Sutra has an article, come to GDC for an inside look at the AI built to playtest Battlefield 5. So that's like a promotion of GDC. We're not too far off from GDC. TechRaptor has a coverage club article, The Spy Who Shrunk Me slips up. See if there's actually a review here. No real review score on this one, but it's on Steam, so I'll check it out. I'm gonna have to go through quite a few games separately, and if there's anything of great importance, I'll keep it, but keep it for Monday. But a lot of these will just be rejected games that weren't going to make it to the follow list or the wish list anyways. Gamer Sutra has an article, designing, recompile, twisting, and turning the Metroidvania game genre. So recompile. I've never heard of this game, Recompile. So either it's brand new, and he's written a blog talking about the development of his brand new game, or yeah, the game is currently available to wishlist on Steam. So yeah, this is a hype thing. It was officially announced on 4th of March, so it doesn't even have an actual release date. So just an advertisement in the form of a blog. We talked about Yu-Gi-Oh! Earlier in the stream. We have a Gematsu article, Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of Duelist Link Evolution launches April 25th in Japan, featuring new master rules and over 9,000 cards. This looks alright, but it's not like really textured and detailed for a game that you'd like to see on PC versus being a Nintendo Switch eShop game, which, yeah. But the main audience of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players probably would play it on the Switch. Let's face it. Like, it'll be at least another 5 years before Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are old enough to be playing PC as their main consoles, and that's questionable anyways, because it's not a direct assumption that as you get older you're going to become part of the PC master race and play on PC. A lot of people are just going to stick with consoles or stop playing games as much at all. Moving on, we have an article, GameIndustry.biz. Julian Gollop defends Epic Games Store exclusivity for Phoenix Point. We talked about Phoenix Point earlier in a previous stream, but I did not really recognize or point out that it was like Epic Games exclusive. The developer assures that refunds will be offered to those who don't want to use Epic or Steam keys if they wait 1 year after the exclusivity. So wait a year after you kickstarted this game, which, yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a Kickstarter game. And then hope that they actually give you Steam keys. I would take the refund and go, frankly. and we'll see about the refunds, how quickly and efficiently those are delivered. GameIndustry.biz, we have an article here. EA builds its own esports broadcast studio. The new facility signals EA's commitment to competitive gaming for years to come. It'll host tournaments, esports focused shows. I assume it's at the Redwood Shores headquarters. So that headquarters is probably not getting shut down anytime soon. I saw a picture of it, and yeah, it just looks like a TV news studio stage. Cool, I suppose. You might as well have some kind of broadcast studio. I think you probably will end up using it for other things than just esports. You could do your own Nintendo Directs from it, and then EA had been doing its own direct announcements before E3, and now they're not even doing one this year before E3, but they could over the course of the year make some small amounts of announcements directly out of their studio, which is probably a good idea and saves them some money. Seems like EA could use to save some money, considering not making a lot for their failed games with microtransactions, although maybe they're making tons of money with microtransactions. Gematsu has the same article. No Man's Sky Beyond update announced. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, so a lot of people still feeling like No Man's Sky is newsworthy. Gematsu has an article. One Piece World Seeker to add photo mode and more. Free update is on the way. By the way, One Piece World Seeker is actually on PC now, so it's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. So it was reviewed well. It's on PC. That tells me that I probably would want to play it. Next, we have a Tech Raptor article. PC Building Simulator Review, a partially complete experience. This is what I was getting from this too, is that it probably is never going to have enough parts. It's never going to be fast about adding new parts from new hardware creators, and it's not really going to feel like a equivalent to actually building a PC. So they gave it a 6.5 good. PC Building Simulator tries to capture a PC technician experience and mostly succeeds, but it's lacking some critical parts of the real-world experience. Pros, it's mostly accurate PC building, wide range of licensed parts, and it has catchy tunes. Cons, there's no data preservation or recovery, which would be a big thing you would do. Keeping track of parts is a pain, and there are no optical drives in the whole thing. It's a shame. I would like to say, like, there was a time in which I wanted to be a PC technician and build things as a career path and work in like a computer shop. It's really a shame how it became a race to the bottom, in particular because of a company named Best Buy introducing the Geek Squad and hiring what are teenagers who don't know anything, and having them pretend like they were experts at fixing computers, and then having them run just a bunch of antivirus things. Best Buy hurt the chances of there ever being a PC, a small business PC shop industry throughout the United States. There are certainly small computer shops around, but they're pretty niche and they usually don't have anything. The other thing that's not Best Buy's fault is that just in general, people who don't know anything about computers don't want to pay anything for computers. So there's a lot of companies, Walmart even now sells computers that are garbage and made very poorly and very cheaply, and they are just cheap as far as quality and cheap as far as price. And so
Like, the race to the bottom just kept happening and kept happening and kept happening. And so you get into this position where, yes, I could build a computer for somebody if they asked me to, but then I have to basically warranty it from anything ever bad happening to it ever, and repair it if the person I build the computer for breaks it in some insane, ridiculous way. Say they just pour water over it, or they give it a bath or something. Like, you think I'm joking, but these things have happened. And so it's not worth what you can get away with charging to then have that responsibility for all of eternity on the computer you build. And it's not worth it to really offer to build computers, because the budget that people will give you is way too long. So if you really enjoy building computers and fixing computers, being a PC technician, you basically can only do it as a hobby and build computers for friends every once in a while, and as far as I can tell, in the United States. And if you think, well, I'll just work in the IT department in a company, no, you won't be building computers, almost certainly not. Very rarely if you build any computers, because all the corporations have contracts almost exclusively with Dell, and Dell will just give you a desktop and send the desktop pre-built from China using cheap Chinese labor, faster and cheaper than having somebody on staff that would be building a computer or even fixing a computer. So yeah, PC game simulate a video game simulating building PC games is probably the best you're gonna get. Game Sutra has the same article we already talked about here. Minecraft is joining Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass lineup. Let's see. Game Industry has .biz has the article about these rumors of Sony buying Take-Two, how purely unconfirmed market speculation turns in headlines around the industry. There was an update here to the story. Sony spokesman says, quote, "We do not know where this rumor is coming from, but there's no such plan." Like, the rumors that Sony was going to buy Take-Two. I can't legally make the accusation, but I heavily suspect it's coming directly from Take-Two, because the persons who most benefited from this rumor were Take-Two directly and any investor in Take-Two. And I don't think it's the first time that the people in charge of Take-Two Interactive have been caught doing some stock market manipulation. So we may be seeing the beginning of a SEC investigation or equivalent. I think they're in Australia. So we shall see what comes of that. But yeah, Sony was not going to buy Take-Two. If Sony was going to buy any video game company, I would heavily suggest Sony would buy Bandai, Konami. Yeah, Konami would be a great one. Square Enix. I don't think Sony has enough money to buy Nintendo. So there's Sony being a Japanese company, even though they now have their headquarters in California, would buy a Japanese company first, almost certainly. If they couldn't get a Japanese company, then they would buy a California, Silicon Valley centered company. Getting Take-Two, which I think is an Australian company, for the most part, doesn't make sense. Daedalic was retweeting a lot of German articles covering this game, A Year of Rain, which is an upcoming ambitious co-op RTS. Yeah, it might be cool, it might be not. Yeah, I had real trouble finding any English articles talking about it. It looks kind of like a StarCraft style game. So yeah, I haven't played a real-time strategy in quite a while, and I'm at the point because I've skipped so many games. I'm an hour over. I totally could have done a third episode. So now I'm just having to. A Year of Rain is on Steam. Like, Gamma Sutra has an article here. Here's where to watch the IGF and Game Developers Choice Awards next week. So next week we'll have the International Games Festival and Game Developers Choice Award, which I guess they all are around GDC. Didn't realize IGF was related to that, or maybe it's not. It's not international. It's Independent Games Festival is what IGF stands for. Okay. So many games. So many games. And that puts me at the Humble Bundle store after tabbing through another 20 games. Humble Bundle was giving away a free game if you sign up for their email, Grid 2, I believe. Beyond that, though, there's no new Humble Bundles. Strategy 2019 being the most recent one. And that means I could go back to Twitter. Twitter wants me to use their new layout, but their new layout sucks because it resets the order in which you view videos to the top view whenever you refresh the page. So if you want to see things linearly, you can't. Yeah, and I don't have time to scroll down my Twitter account to see if there's anything new otherwise. So let's wrap up the stream here. Pretty standard Friday stream. Feels like either people got really busy or people got really tired of me, or YouTube changed its algorithm or something, because I haven't had anybody really say anything on chat for about a week now. Oh well, I suppose. Could be people just bored with Hearthstone, so that may not bode well for the new expansion. At any point next week or the week after, until the new expansion comes out, we may have a special video come out where I just cover all the cards for the new expansion. That's the plan. I'm not going to be super strict about it though, so if I'm sleeping in, I'll just sleep in, because I frankly can't care that much about this next expansion of Hearthstone. It's just been 5 years of Hearthstone. Anyways, that's it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, you can friend me on you can click the link to Patreon. I still haven't figured out how to say the ending right. And support me there. Click on the link on Patreon and support me there, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.